My name is Enzo. I'm 64 years old. I have worked with my hands my entire life, built houses from bare land, lifted beams heavier than regret, poured foundations deeper than most men's patience. But nothing I ever built felt as important as the little girl I once held in a hospital room, promising her that she would never feel alone. And yet, at her wedding, surrounded by chandeliers and champagne flutes, I stood alone. Because I refused to give her my beach house. The promise I made. When Isabella was born, I was a young man who didn't know how to hold something so fragile. Her mother, Sophia, laughed at me in that hospital room. "You build skyscrapers," she teased, "but you're afraid of 7 pounds of baby." Sophia had that laugh, the kind that softened rooms, the kind that made hard days tolerable. We were not rich, we were not powerful, but we were steady. Then cancer came like a thief that doesn't knock. I watched the strongest woman I knew grow smaller each month. Isabella was 12 when we buried her mother. 12 is too young to understand death, but old enough to feel it. That night, Isabella crawled into my bed and whispered, "Are you going to leave too?" I held her tighter than I had ever held anything. "Never," I said. And I meant it. The beach house where we learned to breathe again. The beach house came a year later. Grief was choking our home. Every corner held Sophia's memory, the couch where she read novels, the kitchen where she sang off-key. Isabella barely spoke. So I bought a small, weather-beaten cottage by the ocean. It wasn't logical. It wasn't an investment. It was survival. The first morning we stayed there, Isabella woke before sunrise. I found her standing barefoot in the sand, staring at the horizon. "It's so big," she whispered. The ocean gave her something grief could not, perspective. Every summer after that, the beach house became ours. We grilled cheap burgers, we fixed broken shutters ourselves, we painted the walls together, crooked lines and all. At night, wrapped in old blankets, we talked about her dreams. "Promise this place will always be here," she said once. "It will," I told her. I never said I would give it away. I said it would be there. There's a difference. The man who measured everything in value. Daniel entered her life when she was 34. Polished shoes, confident handshake, ambition dripping from every sentence. He talked about portfolios, the way other men talk about children, about leveraging assets as if life were a board game. At first I tried to like him, I truly did. He brought expensive wine to dinner, called me Mr. Rossi, asked about my construction business. But whenever we visited the beach house, he didn't see sunsets. He saw square footage. He didn't hear waves. He heard resale value. One afternoon, standing on the deck, he said casually, "With the right renovations, this place could triple in value." I looked at him and replied, "It already has." He didn't understand. The ask that changed everything. 6 months before the wedding, Isabella sat across from me at my kitchen table. Her hands were folded too neatly, her voice too rehearsed. "Dad," she began, "Daniel and I want to start our marriage strong. No financial setbacks, no limitations." "That's wise," I nodded. She inhaled. "We think it would be smart if you transferred the beach house to us as a wedding gift. There are moments in life when time slows down. This was one of them. You want me to sign it over?" "It makes sense," she insisted. "It's underutilized. We renovate it, maybe rent it short term. It could fund our firm." "It's not a funding source," I said quietly. "It's property." "No," I replied, "it's memory." Her jaw tightened. "Dad, it's just a house." I leaned forward. "It's the place I survived losing your mother. It's where I learned how to be both parents. It's where you learn to smile again." She looked away. "So that's a no?" "Yes." That was the first time she looked at me not as her father, but as an obstacle. The wedding. I still walked her down the aisle. The venue was extravagant, white roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers reflecting soft golden light. Guests whispered about how stunning everything looked. But I noticed something else. It felt curated, perfect, polished. Like a real estate brochure. When I handed her to Daniel, I searched her face for the little girl who once ran across sand with tangled hair. She was there, but buried. During the reception, I stood to give my speech. My name is Enzo, I began. I'm 64 years old, and for 37 of those years, I've had the honor of being Isabella's father. Applause. I raised her to be strong, to build, to protect what matters. I looked directly at her. Success is not measured in square footage. It's measured in who sits beside you when the storm comes. The room grew still. Some things in life are not meant to be leveraged. They are meant to be loved. I didn't say beach house. I didn't have to. After the speech, Isabella pulled me aside, eyes blazing. You couldn't just let it go for one night. I spoke about love. You made us look greedy. If the shoe fits. She flinched, and then she said the words that will echo in me forever. If you can't support our future, you shouldn't be here. Minutes later, security gently guided me outside. The music kept playing. The doors closed, and I stood alone in the parking lot in a rented tuxedo, listening to my daughter celebrate without me. Silence and pride. We didn't speak for 3 months. I replayed that night in my head 100 times. Was I too rigid, too proud? But every time I imagined signing over the beach house, I felt like I was signing away a piece of Sophia, a piece of us. And some things you don't negotiate. The storm that changed everything. Then came the storm. The kind that bends palm trees sideways and rips docks from their posts. When I finally reached the coast, my chest tightened. The beach house was battered, windows shattered, the deck torn apart. But it was standing. As I stepped through debris, I heard a familiar voice. Dad. I turned. Isabella. No makeup, no designer heels, just jeans and tears. Daniel left, she said softly, 2 weeks ago, said we had different financial visions. The irony was cruel. I was chasing expansion, she whispered, and I lost foundation. We stood together staring at the damage. I'm sorry, she said, I forgot what this place meant. I opened my arms. And this time, she ran into them like she used to when she was 12 and afraid of thunderstorms. Rebuilding more than walls. We repaired the house ourselves. Not because we couldn't hire contractors, but because we needed to rebuild something deeper. We tore out waterlogged floors, hammered nails side by side, argued over paint colors and laughed about it. One evening, exhausted, we sat on the unfinished deck, watching the sunset bleed orange into the sea. You were right, she said quietly. It's not about being right. It's about remembering. She took my hand. I don't want the house, Dad, I want the time. And in that moment, I realized something too. I had been protecting the house so fiercely that I almost lost the person it was meant for. 1 year later. The beach house stands stronger now. Not because of reinforced beams, but because forgiveness reinforced us. Isabella visits often, not to calculate improvements, not to discuss resale, but to sit beside me in silence, listening to waves crash against the shore. Sometimes she brings old photo albums. We laugh at crooked paint lines from years ago. And when storms roll in, we don't panic. We close the shutters together. What I learned at 64. I'm Enzo, I'm 64 years old. I was thrown out of my daughter's wedding because I refused to give her my beach house. But here's what I've learned. Children grow, they get influenced, they chase things that sparkle. And parents, if they're wise, hold steady without closing the door. Love doesn't mean surrendering everything. It means standing firm without letting bitterness win. Because houses can be repaired. Egos can be softened. But if you let pride replace love, you may win the argument and lose your family. Moral: never confuse value with worth. Property has value. Memories have worth. And if you ever have to choose between being right and being loving, choose love. Because in the end, the strongest foundation isn't concrete. It's forgiveness.